You are entering the Take Up, a place to gather when the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and today we are talking about QFest St. Louis, the 2023 edition. I have a special guest. That is Chris Clark, the artistic director of Cinema St. Louis. QFest St. Louis is running May 4th through May 10th, and you can get tickets and information at cinemastlouis.org. Chris Clark, you're here.
I know, this is exciting. Well,
doing this podcast for a little bit, and I've been wanting Chris Clark on.
I feel privileged now that I'm finally here, but it's time. And there were not reasons, but people smarter than me were invited.
Well, here's the thing. It's time to talk about your baby.
Yes.
What's your baby?
QFest St. Louis, our LGBTQ plus film festival, has turned 16 this year. So old enough to drive, but not quite sure what to do with the wheels just yet. But this has been a passion project for a long time. It's brief but beautiful history. It wasn't always a Cinema St. Louis event. A group of community organizers from all stripes and shapes and sizes and colors had talked to each other and wanted to put on a film festival, but didn't really know quite how, and approached me and said, would I help them and be a partner in this endeavor? So it was a consortium of sorts, not really fully a 501c3 of its own or really fully one thing, but we had this agreement on paper. There was a consortium of these different groups and people, mostly volunteer people. And it was a rough start. And out of frustration, I said, well, this is not, after months of planning and all these things, it was just painful. And I'm like, well, this is what I do. And we just cannot do this without money. And this is just impossible. We can't do this, for after all this time, we don't have enough money. It just isn't going to work. And a committee member said, excuse me, how much do you need? I said, probably at least $2,000. So this quiet, unassuming woman who I knew really nothing about whipped out a checkbook and said, okay, here. And that was the dawn of QFest. And it was on a very, very tiny, $2,300 then, because we had that money and the $300 we raised, and that we made it work. And that was 14 of the 16 years ago. And here we are. So it's been in a whole bunch of locations over time and has just, it's not a huge money earner for us, but it's, it's well funded because I have nice friends who are generous and underwrite big chunks of it. So we make it work. And I think it's an important community offering, not just for the community it represents, but for everybody else to see, what it's like to live these lives. And, for right or for wrong, I choose to gravitate towards films that are more heavily empowering and positive messages, as opposed to films that end with death or suicide or maiming. And not to denigrate the importance of all stories, but we have a smallish slate, and I look for, they could be dramas too. It's not all comedy and lighthearted and musicals and stuff too, but I look for films that uplift, at least on some level. Even if everybody dies, was there positive motion? I think, I hope I'm expressing that right.
There are several films I can think of where everyone dies and I've walked out. But this edition has something very special that you've never had before. Yes. And that's a permanent home.
Yes. So over the previous 15 years, this event has been in a number of locations, maybe as many as 7 or 8. 2 of those are the High Point Theater a long time ago, and more recently than that, but still a while ago. We had 2 years in a row at the High Point Backlot, which is much, much smaller. Well, lo and behold, flash forward to 2023, and Cinema St. Louis is now the owners. Want to see my keys?
You got the keys to the crib.
Keys to both theaters, projection booth. We own these joints. So we're going to, this will be our first cinema. We've done lots of screenings and events and little things and Oscar parties and things, but this is our first annual Cinema St. Louis event that we're going to produce in our new forever home, the High Point Theater, located 1005 McCausland at the great crossroads overlooking Highway 40 in Forest Park. I could look out the front door and enjoy the view every day. But we've all had to be here many, many nights, making soda, mopping the floor,
doing things.
Put soda jerk on my resume now.
Very good.
My partner claims, well, half of that's right.
So,
But it's been a great experience, and I've learned to love and explore every dusty corner of the place. And actually, that's not really true because it's pretty clean. So we got this turnkey operation that when a nonprofit buys 100-year-old building, you automatically think of a Little Rascals kind of scenario where we're patching holes in the wall with gum and just gathering up change just to fix one hole in the roof, and the boiler's going to break at any minute. This was in pristine racehorse condition, these two theaters, and we've had some great screenings so far, and I'm really looking forward to having QFest here. Back to
this is always so great because in any screening, sometimes things don't turn out how we would want, and it's very sparsely populated. But no matter what, any screening you're in at QFest, especially for a queer person like myself, it feels very much like home, and you feel so connected to the audience, which is exactly what you want whenever you're seeing any film.
Thanks for teeing that off. Let's expand on a little bit. This will be, it's a safe home of cinema, but when we are in other venues, you have to traipse through the mall or traipse through the loop, but this is going to be completely and exclusively QFest in the main theater. It's beautiful new space, and we can take our time. Me not working so very hard every last second, and the user. I want the attendee. They want them to have a great experience and talk about it and come back.
Well, let's get into the meat of things. Let's talk about that experience and break it down. What we're going to do is just sort of go through the schedule. We'll give folks an idea of what it's going to be like as we walk through day by day. But I've already said it starts May 4th, but you've got a sort of precursor event happening. Tell us about the event you're having with MTech.
Yes. On the day before, on May 3rd, Wednesday, we're a community partner, Metro Trans Umbrella Group, with the colorful pink and blue umbrella with the little swoop on the bottom. You've probably seen their logo. What a great, they're about 10-ish years old now. Is that right?
So, yeah.
Maybe a little further in double digits, but a fairly young nonprofit that had a very, tiny start, but they have now a permanent space, and they, do lots of advocacy and lots of work and donation of goods and items for people.
Saving people's lives.
Yeah, they really do the good work of I work for a nonprofit, but I don't, maybe I uplift people's lives by showing the art of the cinema, but I don't truly give them clothes or food. I nourish them in some ways, but
yeah, you're slacking, Chris, is what you're saying.
It's groups like this that I really, feel humbled about, the actions that they do that really, really serve people's base needs. I'm an entertainer. I mean, that's important, but not, some of the things they do. Anyway, that was a tangent.
And what's the documentary that you're
doing?
They're
doing a fundraiser called A Run for More, a political tale about a trans politician running for office. And it's also playing with a trans-themed short subject, and the director of the short will be coming. But this is a fundraiser for them, for MTUG. So it was nice for us to be able to offer our space to them and a shared experience. Connor O'Keefe is the director of the short No More Longing. That'll be attending the festival. So it'll be a nice, fun kickoff event of sorts with a partner. We've partnered with MTUG on previous QFests before. On other films. In fact, a film that they have helped co-produce.
Trans Geek.
That's right. That's Trans Geek. So they approached us with this a couple of months, and we're just looking for space to do it, and could we help them? And I thought that was a nice, part of our mission is to, share our toys in our sandbox with the other kids when we can. We'll do this. So this will be a nice event.
And it couldn't be better timing to show this particular documentary about that particular story than, our elected officials getting silenced because they are trans.
Part of my brain doesn't want to believe that it, keeps happening all around me. And but this state can be very backwards and very conservative in the wrong directions and worrying wrong things. There's lots of other things to worry about, methinks. But they get on these things that they think they can win. They think it's a winnable battle because it's easy to pick on the trans kids and the queer kids. They think it's easy to get attention And that's what it comes down to: attention and political grabs and an easy target. So, pick on the weakest link in that. So, the medical conditions, I think they're still trying to figure that out, overnight tonight, the day we're talking. And then tomorrow, the day after we're talking, they're supposed to, vote again or something like that. But, have a trans partner. Is there going to be danger getting her healthcare at all? And then it went further than that. It affected people who had other types of hormone treatments that weren't trans or queer, that had, needed for other medical things. So they had to rethink that quickly. But how are you going to, rewrite history again? But they, the gloves are off.
Yeah.
So we do
and
these.
That's what the groups like MTugger are.
Yeah, that's what they're
vitally
for.
Important.
That's why we look for this empowering story. Of course, this politician struggles, just like, differently than the recent, what state was it in where the
Montana.
Was kind of severely punished for having a different viewpoint. Well, America is changing, and is it going to be a scary place for people like us, Josh? I don't know.
That's the thing that I love about QFest, is that queer spaces seem to be disappearing. And I mean, not to make the whole thing about what we're talking about and about the thing that we're trying to promote, but it is true to have like a queer space is so important right now, and to invite others in to share our stories. I mean, we could go on and on about that in particular and why that's just monumental right now, and probably as we continue. But well, you're right, Chris. But we soldier on, and I think this is a really great platform to talk about our stories, our similar stories, but also the different experience of queer people around the world and all the colors of the rainbow that we are.
Letters, shape, sizes, ages, races, pick a, category. It's impossible to touch everybody's lives and story, but we try to embrace as much as we can, with under the caveat that we want, the best possible stories and the freshest, sharpest queer filmmakers.
Well, speaking of colors of the rainbow, how about we get into the program proper? And the first thing,
see what we did there? The color segue.
Oh, listeners, they love it. They love my segues. The Blue Caftan, though. This is a Moroccan film, narrative feature by Mariam Tizani. This movie is like so kind of quiet and tender, but it's also just rushing with this incredible emotion, and it's a coming out story. It's about a couple who own like Medina, and their business is doing well, but they hire a young man to come in and help, and the male half of the business owner partnership kind of likes the young guy.
Unexpectedly, I think he was surprised to find that within himself, in this very, very particular part of the world that shies away from any type of homosexual or different. Not the other world. The rest of the world doesn't shudder too, but what this film is, it also another love letter to my new forever home. I am sworn to the art of cinema and the support of art house cinema. The Blue Caftan checks every single box that I have for something that I would lovingly present on this screen, whether it was in QFest or not. Mm-hmm. It is purely within the realm of art house cinema. It's a beautiful story from another world that we like to share with our audience and viewers, and the lusciousness of the sound and the fabrics. And they're in this tiny shop, but they open the door, then this busy street, filled with the buzz of life and everything buzzing, and carts and dogs and motorcycles and noise and people. And, you can almost smell the smells. And it's just so visceral that it's a very definition of the thing that I want to see 40 feet tall on the screen. And it would just, the colors and the senses will just kind of wash over you. The only thing missing in the theater is we just won't have food. Rocking food
and not that food.
Oh yeah, but it would be messy. Like, I don't want people eating with their fingers. And
it's a story about desire, but all I desire is the food in the store.
Yeah,
So good.
desire,
So
but
good.
you know, the sensuousness of the craft of making the garments and just the touches of the satin and the lost art. People can order something on Amazon, they think, and they're going to get the same thing. So this art is dying. So it's very, very many layers to this story. Understanding between the couple, coming aware, the owner of the shop coming aware of himself and his own body and his desires, and perspectives of the wife. It's just really a beautiful, beautiful tale.
And then the next day, which is Friday, May 5th, and we should remind everyone, cinemastlouis.org, you can get tickets and information there.
Yes.
But we have L'Immensità, which is an Italian film by Emmanuel Criales. Sorry. I do my best here, but who knows? But I do know the name Penelope Cruz.
Penelope Cruz, just sitting there
Penelope
looking
Cruz
right on her thing.
In mom mode. Like, she is in mother mode lately. 2 films ago was Parallel Mothers, the Almodovar, which I loved. And you can go back past episodes and go to the archive of thetakeup.com and read. I think I wrote about it 3 times somehow.
That was a beautiful segue to past archives. I love how you just.
If there's one thing I'm going to do is self-promote. But Penelope Cruz is in mother mode here. She is a Spanish emigre to Italy, has married into a very wealthy family. But the story really focuses on her children and one child in particular. And it's a trans boy named Clara. The film is all about the journey of self-discovery, but also the journey of self-discovery and how that affects the people around you. And in this case, coming out as a trans man and very young in particular, there's a lot of conflict in that. This isn't a story about a great supportive woman. She certainly could be a monster. The character isn't that, but she is a human. And the struggle between these 2 particular people, but also the entire family circle and their extended family, is really fascinating. And it's also a gorgeous movie, too. It has these little flights of fancy where there are musical numbers in it.
You're missing something that's key to this discussion. It sounds like a contemporary tale, but it is not. It's actually set in the early 70s.
Yes.
So it's the period piece as well, which really puts it, you would think that Penelope Cruz is, a Spanish emigre, would be a modern tale happening now when, trans kids are more empowered to come out. Well, this is 50 years ago. You didn't happen in a very Catholic, devout country. This was a whole different dynamic altogether, which really adds a bunch of layers to the story, I think. It makes it even more gorgeous, all the period, music and clothes and styles and everything too. But it was a whole different, the world was a different place.
No, you're right. And that culture and society informed so much of the story too. And their affluence. But I'm excited for people to see it, and for people to see it on the big screen, because it does have this fresh original take with all these flights fancy in it. So it's a lot of fun, but it's also filled with all kinds of feeling. And then Saturday, let's go to Saturday. It's the first of the Queer Shorts program.
Yes. And we started a mission a couple years ago, and we're kind of trying to uphold the best we can to give back when we can. And everybody isn't able to always afford a whole bunch of festival tickets all in a row. So we try to make a couple of programs free. And the thing that seemed to make the most sense to us this year, we're having 2 Queer Shorts programs. And there are a total, I think, of 16 shorts between the 2 programs. And we wanted them to be free. So people of all ages and ranges of income and everybody, anybody who wanted to come and see, and this is an opportunity not to see one film, but either 6 or in one case, 10 films in the second program. So you can see a wide range of queer filmmakers from all over the world in these empowering tales. And I didn't plan it this way in advance, but these were the best, what happened organically was Queer Shorts program is all about and starring youth. So, I can't struggle to say that it's truly family friendly, because I wouldn't want somebody to, and there's nothing offensive in any way. are sexual really in any way, but there's some adultish situations. So I'd say adolescents or above, particularly adolescents with a parent. But teens, anyone. The youngest subject is, I think, is a 9-year-old boy from Afghanistan. That tale's a little tough, but he does it. In the end, he sticks to his own identity. And these are about these youth not questioning their own identity, finding their own identity, finding their voice in these stories. So one of the directors will be joining us, the director of What If I Am. I think this is the world premiere of the film. So Brian Powers will be joining us.
And then the second shorts program is the same time the next day. So both weekend days, you've got the free shorts programs.
1 p.m. on Saturday, the 6th, and 1 p.m. on Sunday, the 7th. And there are a couple guests coming for the show on Sunday. One of which is from Columbia, Missouri. They work for Ragtag Theater in True False, Leanne Lowry. And then Moon Abbott is coming with Rebound from Chicago.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, next, tell me about Charles Busch. People remember Die Mommy Die like that.
I do. I mean,
right, I do too.
It's ultra high camp. He writes, produces, stars a lot of his own stuff. He is that kind of Joan Crawfordish kind of character that he inhabits as his main drag character. But they're always very funny and elaborate. Diamond Me Die, I think, is just hilarious, as is Psycho Beach Party.
Die Mommy Die hit me at the right time. I think that came out when I was like 15 or 16, and just really immersing myself in cinema. So for it to be so like reverent for old cinema and old Hollywood and the psycho bitty genre, great. Perfect.
Yeah.
But the sixth reel is the film that you're showing, and that's also very much about the movies too.
A missing piece of film allegedly is found in a dead friend's apartment, and a bunch of nefarious, wealthy, wacky characters, including Margaret Cho, show up to try to get their hands on this missing film. Everyone thinks there's money involved, and is it or isn't salacious material. So it's just wacky silliness with bad mustaches and high drag. But it's Charles Busch and having a bunch of fun.
This is like his insider screwball comedy.
Yeah. Is it high art? Hell no, it isn't.
No.
I am not a high art person all the time. I think I want to do, hug all sides. The art house, which I mentioned earlier, is very important to me, but also I am an entertainer. I am a, game show host. I'm a huckster. I want people to come in there and laugh at this stupid, silly film, and they may not remember it forever. And it's not, like I said, high art, or it's not going to, change the world in any way, but it's fun. And it's about the movies, and it stars Charles Busch and Margaret Cho, and it'll make you laugh. And it's a good afternoon show. So
yeah, that's
rocket science, nothing deep there. I just want people to have a good time.
As programmers, we know that's a good thing that you did there, doing an afternoon program with that particular movie, because that is the kind of movie where you want to come outside and the sun is still shining and you want to just go have fun, have a few drinks.
Yeah, go have a drink. Yeah, bunch of drinks.
Now, high art, Kokomo City. Kokomo City is gorgeous. That's difficult to transition to because one of the subjects of the film was recently murdered. That's Coco Dadal, and this film is about Black trans sex workers, in several large cities in the United States. And it's hard for that to not sort of shade the way the film unfurls, because of all of the stories that are told throughout. But by all accounts, Coco was just like such a light. And you get that in this film.
Yep.
And the film it's made in black and white, in digital black and white. And it has these just gorgeous textures to it. And it's largely like a film of talking heads. It's a talking head documentary. But when I say that, people usually use that in a pejorative sense. I don't mean that at all here. This film is very loose, very freewheeling, and really gets you inside these lives via the people themselves. And that's why it's fucking tragedy, the genocide that's being perpetuated by everyone right now. So
the people literally think they're the lowest of the low of the low and give them yeah. So do something about
this is such a fresh take, and the subjects themselves are so full of life. I think it's one of the more important works of not just this festival. I'm not just saying this because it's QFest of the year, because of its timeliness, but also because of the humanity in it, and its aesthetic values were just really incredible too.
Although for all those reasons, it'll be one of the lesser seen things because people will be turned off by the subject for the wrong reasons. I just think,
I hope not.
This film will be a hard sell to get a large number of people there, but I don't care. And I'll say that publicly. I don't care if 10 people are there. If those 10 people there are going to be moved to tears and empowered with joy about these larger than life, full of love characters, despite all the horrible things that get thrown on them, they live and they seek life and they find life. Like a plant looking for light through the window. They find it and they embrace it and take every little bit of juice that they can. It was very intimate. Ultimately, very sad too.
Yeah. You know what is not very intimate? The Doom Generation. All right. So Q Classic for the year. And this is important because this is a new 4K restoration of a sort of director's cut. So it's Greg Araki, and we've talked about Greg Araki on the podcast before. We covered his film, his debut, The Living End. And it's interesting because the Q Classic last year was Todd Haynes' Poison, and Greg Araki was a part of that group and part of the Barbed Wire Kisses, New Queer Cinema, which we saluted last year. But this is an evolution of that. This is his third film, and it stars some up and coming stars like Rose McGowan, who the next year would be in Scream. I've never seen this film properly. I feel I've always seen it panned and scanned and like shitty prints. So this is why this is incredibly special. It's touring the States, and it's really cool that you got it for this occasion.
For all the reasons that you said, McGowan is, really what an interesting path she has had too. But it was Iraqi that kind of drew us to this. And now that I have this new space, I think more about things when they have 4K restorations. Well, of course, it's going to look better.
His films are so transgressive, but also on the pulse of what was really happening in the underground. He would eventually find himself in a more quote unquote culturally elevated position, but he was still doing things like Mysterious Skin, which is a hyper transgressive film, but also a truly beautiful film too. And even had like his Stars show, but he's always done queer art, even if it's not explicitly queer subject matter, something like White Bird in a Blizzard. The framework is always underground, punk, queer.
And what he's he's like a queer Robert Altman of sorts, where he sticks only to his own band and beat. He doesn't go too far he doesn't want to go far in the Hollywood system. He wants to make the stories he wants to make. So he's really puts the indie filmmaker very strongly. Mysterious Skin, I have some weird memories of that. It was so overwhelming for my partner that she passed out in the lobby of the theater.
I get it.
Being overwhelmed. Yeah. But what these films are not, they're not the new higher profile kind of crossover-ish queer films like Bros and Fire Island and things like that. That's interesting, but they're super slick and they're meant to be dessert they're not super heavy. He really tries to make just really complicated, deep, rich stories and complex characters. Not
And they're
necessarily.
punk as fuck too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
this is a very violent
You
film
stick to that, sure.
in many senses, in the amount of gore you see, but also just the filmmaking itself feels very rebellious and violent.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 90s punk Jules and Jim.
And that's why we're showing a British lesbian vampire short before it called Forever. The filmmaker originally couldn't find his short in the program. He was looking in the Queer Shorts programs, and I pointed out where it really was. He said, "Oh, I was shown before Greg Araki. Oh my God."
That is something to be excited about. Oh, the Jimmy in Saigon, you had mentioned earlier that we've got the filmmaker of that here. We're talking about Kokomo City and sort of its non-traditional format. Jimmy in Saigon does have a traditional doc structure and format, but it's so compelling, the mystery at the heart of it all, when the mystery is so personal to the filmmaker is really the subject of it, and his search to figure out what happened to his brother that he never really knew, and this idea that he might have been queer, that he died in Vietnam during the war, and the story around his death and sort of the mystery about it and the great lengths he goes to figure it out. I mean, dude goes to Saigon and talks to his quote unquote ex-girlfriend. It's really wild.
Yeah, nearly 45, 48 years later. So there's not a clean paper trail to exist, but it's not just somebody running over there with the camera. It's very artfully put together, provocative, thoughtful, pensive. There are a lot of good words we could use to describe this very moving film. Again, a hard sell, I think, to our general audiences, but the people that go will be rewarded, and I hope that people will. It's a remarkable tale. You doesn't matter ultimately how many people are there. Of course, we're going to make money with everything, but we want to move whoever shows up. We want these the best possible films, and they'll have comfort and real butter on our popcorn, and great film experience. But seeing on this beautiful screen with great sound, this is the best possible position we can be. I love it.
Well, something a little bit more high profile closes out Sunday night. That's Monica, starring Trace Lizette from Transparent, Patty Clarkson. I just get to call her Patty Clarkson, I guess. Patricia Clarkson from Many Great Things, Far From Heaven, A High Art, Sharp Objects. I mean, come on, Patricia Clarkson. I'll be honest, I haven't seen Monica yet. I'm so excited to see Monica, but this was like, sometimes it happens where we're not going to see the thing before the thing because it is so kind of high profile that we can't get to it first. But it was something that I think we were both like, and we should mention Kate Lohr. Kate's not with us. Yes. She's the co-programmer as well. She just couldn't be here today. But I think you said something about Monica and we were all like,
yeah, Kate's the Peggy Lipton of our queer mod squad.
I don't know who that makes me.
Yeah. Or me. No, but this is, it's not often that we have two profoundly trans-themed films in any given QFest, and this is the second of two, Kokomo City being the other. Some of the shorts, but this feature, and it hits a lot of buttons on a lot of people. So the lead character has been gone from the family that was uncomfortable about their brother becoming their sister. And so Monica's been out of their lives for a long time, but the mother has health issues and Alzheimer's and dementia and sinking, and they need help. So she's lured back to this world that she assumes just hates her or doesn't remember her. And going back to do the good deed requires a lot of, sucking up and hiding patience, and the mom does the mom really remember or not? And that's part of the story. Is she pretending, or is she just really there? And but the relationship and the care and the love is still there. So just these two great actresses with this wild range of emotions, and the quiet parts tell as much as the speeches or screaming or yelling or anything that happens in between. But it's the quiet moments of just connection. This is a beautiful art house film. So again, very much defines what I want to do in this space across the board. But in QFest, to have this profoundly moving, beautiful film with in the right set of circumstances, could have many acting award nominations for either one, especially Trace Lissette.
Trace Lissette is great and has always been great, but has been in the past. Do you remember the title of that film about the history of trans representation and trans performers?
Oh.
But Trace Lissette is interviewed in that film, and herself talks about being relegated to like dead hookers and just like bit parts where she is like capital T trans. And this is such a great platform for her, because she showed really and glimpses in Transparent what she can do. All right.
Hey,
Monday
well, good
night.
news. You're about to get a link to the film.
Oh, did that literally just happen?
Yes.
Y'all, you're getting an inside peek at what it's like to be a film critic.
We get out our cigars, which are actually soda straws, and we contact our people and beg them to give us stuff that we want, but they like us.
I can watch Monica. Anyway, I'm sure Monica's great. I'm going to watch it.
No, it is beautiful. Yeah. So I'm glad. So you'll see everything I was talking about. It's just really a deep, rich, it's an acting film, and the quiet moments are so beautiful. But it's about family and fractured families. And it doesn't, it should emote with an art house crowd or someone who just loves cinema. It doesn't matter, that Monica was transgender necessarily to make this story structure work. Similar stories before about fractured families convening for the elderly mother who maybe hated, or there was some tragedy that happened and everyone's away. But it really adds layers to this story because they're connecting as women. But she birthed a son. I'm kind of saying that clumsily, but there's so many pieces to this story and their connection that make it really moving. And just seeing Monica being comfortable in her own skin and going back to this place that triggered PTSD, to go back to this place that tortured you so much. Would you want to go back to that playground where those boys were?
I wouldn't have the bravery. I am not a brave person. I would not do that. No, never.
You're pretty brave. We were in their shorts to the screening the other day. That's brave.
I have those same shorts on right now.
It's cold out, man. I
was showing up. Speaking of looking and short shorts.
Yes.
The rugby boys.
In from the side, the British rugby film. Sure. Is it because there's lots of sporty naked lads running about? Sure. That was a big part of it. But it's a sports film. It's about connection. It's about, lots of things in community and shared teams. And is that true? And not a brand new story. The queer kid on the macho sports team has been, football teams, swim teams, baseball teams, every team there is, volleyball, pick one. But pretty to look at. It's a nice tale. It almost is like a mini series of sorts, kind of by the numbers of sorts, but again, entertaining. The members of the Crusaders, the local gay St. Louis rugby club, will be coming to the show just to help celebrate that. One of our partners on this film is Just John Nightclub. I've known them for a long time. So it's, the right movie for the right set.
Yeah. People like this movie a lot. It has been playing at similarly minded festivals for a little bit now. Like it's been doing the rounds. So it's
I know it's not your first love. And I get that
I
too.
wasn't gonna say that.
It didn't latch onto you, but that's not the type of cinema that you really, it's not who you are. Oh, you can appreciate, what you're looking at. You like different types of tales, but for the demographic that's going to enjoy it, they will fucking love it, man.
Well, they will fucking love it. You know what I fucking love is Blue Jean. I turned to my boyfriend and I said, I love this movie. 3 seconds in, because the beginning of it is so sort of indicative of what the rest will be. 16 millimeter film. I just eat up that grain. And this sort of palette of very soft blues going over these sheets that I'm like, whatever this is, you tell me a story, then what unfolds is not only aesthetically pleasurable, it's a tough movie.
It's
movie.
Another period piece, this time set in the 80s, but in Thatcher era UK, when they were trying to make some laws that were less friendly to our collective
to say the least.
And and that is really resonating now, because on this side of the pond, all these many years later, we're facing kind of this same kind of people, even here in Missouri.
This is Georgia Oakley film, and it played at Berlin is when I first heard about it, really. And this promotional image of the lead character dyeing her hair, but her face is fractured in a mirror. I was like, I need this, whatever this is. But it's been critically lauded. It really is about what's going on right now. It's about how homophobia is like a communicable disease. And if it gives you an advantage to hate on another, how easy it is to get that, even when you're gay yourself. And I don't think I'm giving too much away there, but it's very lovingly told too.
The time period really resonated with me, and what she was going through. I'm a child of the 60s and 70s, and my great gay awakening was the 80s. When I was 19, I came blazing out of the closet in 1981. I was not even 20 years old yet. So this is my time and era, but I know what it's like to go to the bars that are in a seedy part of town. And, they aren't, open and broadcasted like they were. They were always kind of hidden.
She's in the eye of a very quiet hurricane, but it is wrenching to be. I love these films that really lock themselves with a protagonist who you cannot really reach into. So there's a central mystery of just what's going on in her head. And you think this film is going to go in one very precarious direction, and it really doesn't. But what it does is even more interesting.
A history lesson of sorts. Different countries all over the world go through the similar things now, but things were very difficult then, here, and especially in the UK. So that's, gives a perspective on for the casual, film goer that's not part of our alphabet that comes and see this. So, maybe they weren't making it up. Maybe it was hard. People don't realize what it's like to be under the microscope unless you are an underrepresented or picked on minority or race or something already. You can't really know. And even then, it's not the same thing. But the man beats you down, and the conservative Karen white woman beats you down, and the church people beat you down. And, if anybody that's different, you're different.
Unfortunately.
Speaking of
different, hey, now you got the segues. Yeah. This is a history lesson of sorts in looking through the history of queer popular art and queering other entertainment forms. Please Baby Please is it's like a musical without musical numbers. It does actually have musical numbers, but it doesn't. This movie is indescribable, really. So the plot of it is, it's I think 1960, 1959, Greenwich Village. You've got beat poets, beatniks on one side, leather-clad leather gang on the other side, and a married couple. They witness a murder
Dun, dun, dun.
that leads to questioning of their sexual and gender identities. You didn't think it was going to go there, but it does.
That's a very natural progression. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
But it comes in the form of this very neon lit, like bright, brash, Technicolor, Frank Cashlin widescreen cartoon musical starring Andrea Riseborough giving a performance. She should have been nominated for this one. What the fuck is she doing in this movie? She is wild. There was a moment where she's just like sitting on the ground and she has her legs up. She's like on her knees and her legs are propped up. And it's the stupidest thing that I'm even bringing it up, but the way she rotates her body like she's a doll, I was like, who is this alien woman? But she is so incredible in this movie. This is when I was thinking like Tex Avery wishes he could draw the faces that she pulls in this, but she's so funny and she's such a smart performer too. And there are other people in here, but I just loved her so much in this movie.
In past QFest, we've had films that were bawdier or more sexual in nature, but I would say this is our dirtiest film this year, but it's more not in your face as much as more in style,
and in theme maybe,
in theme.
But because it is sort of about sexual liberation.
Sure, and it's titillating, if I may use that.
Yeah, it reminds me of like if Frank Tashlin made Fassbender's Corral. Like, that I think is a great description for what it is, but it's a lot of fun. And it's also a rumination of gender and sexual politics. And you've got Demi Moore, Cola Scola, and what's his name? Harry Potter boy, Harry Melling. He was also pretty great in Ballad of Buster Scruggs. That's a good closer too.
QFest 16, but not forever.
Not forever.
Packed in. So I know something else we didn't talk about. Of the 26 films from 9 countries, I think more than half of the directors are women or non-binary.
What countries are we representing? Brazil, Canada, Hungary, Iran, Italy, Morocco, Spain, UK, US. There's just a taste of everything there. You've got 8 features, 2 docs, 15 narrative shorts, 1 doc short.
What we're kind of skipping here, other than Jimmy and Saigon tangentially, is there's not much Asian representation. But thank goodness for Pete Timmerman with the Webster Film Series. So they're having an Asia Film Festival. All continents are now represented, I believe.
Yeah, Webster Film Series has the Gay Asia series that starts on June 9th. It runs throughout the month, in which you are co-sponsoring as well. And with MTUG is also there. That's very exciting. And we'll end up talking about that a lot more in the podcast. There's a 35 millimeter print of Apichatpong Where Sethekун's Tropical Malady, which is very exciting to me.
You mean Apichatpong Where Sethekun?
Where Sethekun is actually like the L. It's just like the best name to say. Yes. I feel like you should get a point whenever you say it. Yeah.
Ding.
AKA Joe. All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining me. And May 4th through May 10th, 16th annual QFest St. Louis.
Yes.
We got tickets, information at cinemastlouis.org. And Chris, you got anything you want to promote other than that? Where do people find you online?
I'm the same on all platforms at Chris Clark STL on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Very cool. And we'll have to have you back for a pick in some series.
Yeah.
Love that. So, on our next episode, we are going to start our latest program, and that is with our guest Elliot of Movie Files on YouTube, my cohort on KMOV, film critic for Great Day St. Louis. But I want to thank Kayla McCullough for our social media, Jessica Pierce for our editing, our partners at Cinema St. Louis. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
And music by AMP. And until then, you better get to reading about the new Black film canon and see you at QFest.